Welcome back to Bay Area Breakdown. I'm here with my co-host,
Justin Kim.
and we're gonna recap the games over the last week and then talk about some of the upcoming games. So, we beat Charlotte in the Magic pretty convincingly over the last week. Any thoughts on those two games?
I just gotta shout out Steph Curry, man. He been balling. Actually, not the first game against the Hornets, but you know how he's been hot, right? Yeah,
hmm
yeah, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Steph is like carried us for a few games like this week, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Um, I mean, we can kind of group in the game yesterday against Charlotte too, but Steph's been pretty good. Outside he has that 50-point game and then a couple 20 pieces.
Yeah.
I think Jimmy's got to step up a little bit, taking 7 shots. I'd like to see him take a few more shots. When especially on the non-Steph minutes, have him take control of the offense.
Mhm.
Play make and shoot the ball a little bit. Um, I mean, he had 6 points against Charlotte, had 5 points against Orlando, and then he had 13 points yesterday against Charlotte. But yeah, just get Jimmy the ball more a little bit. He didn't play against Philly, so we can talk about that next. We lost to Philly after Quinn Grimes put up a 44 points. Um, I just think, we kind of got to lock in on Quinn Grimes, but it's Quinn Grimes. He had like a game. This isn't the Philly like that's present. Um, Maxi has been struggling.
Yeah,
Um,
he's been struggling. Yeah.
PG has been in and out injured.
hmm
Joel's out for the year. So I mean, it's a tough loss, but at the same time, you can't control Quinn Grimes going off like that, going, 18 to 24. Thoughts on that game?
Well, like what you said, or I wanna add on to what you said about Paul George. I heard that Paul George might be getting shut down for the rest of the year, which I don't know. This shows that we lost to like a very bad team. Like
I
I don't
mean,
know
Paul
this.
George played in that game, played pretty well in that game, so I'm not going to say
Yeah,
like th this is like a bad team per se. But it's just not a team that you want to be losing to, especially in the
especially because
stretch.
they're yeah. I
Go ahead, go ahead.
I think like part of the reason why we lost maybe is because Jimmy Butler didn't play maybe because
I mean,
Jimmy
maybe.
Butler's like 9-1, like nine
Maybe,
and one or
but at the
so.
same time, like I think the team's still like talented enough to win these games even without Jimmy.
Yeah,
Um, when you got guys, like Steph had 29, right? But like
yeah, he
then
played
no
good.
one, I mean Quinn Post had
16.
16 to
Yeah.
be our second leading scorer. Then you
hmm
had GP2 and Gui Santos like putting up the next highest points. And it's just like somebody else has to step up a little bit. Whether it's Moses Moody, whether it's Pajemski, somebody's got to be like a secondary guy when Jimmy's not there.
I f Yeah, I feel like Pod kind of brought this game down with only 5 point.
Um, so I mean, speaking of depth, had a couple injuries coming off that Charlotte game. So Pods was limping midway through the game, but he came back. I'm not really worried about him. GP2 with he'll I think they're calling it a nasal issue, a nose issue.
Yeah.
Um, So he's out today against the Knicks. Anything on GPT that you've read upon?
I don't know. Well, my estimated time, I don't think it's like, oh, yeah, I don't think it's too big, maybe. I think it will be like a week injury or so, maybe coming back like Saturday, Monday. And I don't know, that injury at first looked very bad. He was just laying there, like head straight down. So I hope he's good.
Do you have anything on the Kuminga injury updates? Is there an estimate out somewhere?
Yeah, I think he's trying to come back on Saturday, March 8th, from
Okay.
what I heard. Like like next week for sure. That's all I
hmm
gotta say. Yeah.
And then Steph's on the injury report for today against the Knicks, so we can dive into that. Big game today against the Knicks. Um, yeah. Anything you're excited for? Anything you're looking forward to in this specific game before we
Jalen
look at it?
Yeah, I'm looking for the Jalen Brunson against Steph Curry.
Well, Steph's questionable right now, so maybe Steph doesn't play.
Well, he's Steph. He's old. He's always gonna be under questionable like LeBron, you know. I think he'll fight
I
through
don't
it.
think Steph's been on questionables. I think
I don't
I'm looking
know.
at the Steph injury report right now.
Mhm.
Steph hasn't been questionable for a good chunk of the Jimmy era.
I still think he fights through it, you know.
Okay, but the one thing it's a back to back, so I won't be surprised if Steve Kerr doesn't play Steph today. Um,
Or no, I think he'll play, but maybe like a less minute, you know, for him and bring like more of
maybe
maybe Buddy Hield.
I just think I think Steph sits this one out. It's a back to back. There's no reason to push him, especially like where the Warriors are in the standings.
Well,
They're half game up on the sixth seed, and it's a game that like you can afford to lose, right?
I guess.
Um, Especially like I mean ankle issue, like anything when you see ankle and Steph together, it's always a big like, hey, let's play it safe, especially because like the early career, everyone knows
Yeah.
when Steph had his ankle issues early in his career, and it's just like if his ankle's not 100%, don't push it, don't bring up old issues, and now during the playoff run, he has an ankle issue, or when we're trying to make a play, it's a big game, game six, game seven of a series. Steph's ankle issue from March is now coming into play like, oh, he's not 100%, right? I'd rather him not play in MSG, in March versus him having to deal with this issue in April, May, June.
Yeah, I don't know, but because after the Knicks, we're going against the Nets, the Brooklyn Nets. So
Hmm.
I think if you were going against the Nets, he'll for sure sit down today. But
Yeah.
it's the Knicks, which is like, you know, a good team. It's a good matchup today, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I see what you're talking about. I just think the back-to-backs is my biggest thing. Like we've seen,
Yeah.
in today's era, guys
Yeah.
sit back-to-backs.
Yeah. Especially Joel if
I mean, that's a separate problem. But I mean, you've been seeing like more guys. Like I've seen Giannis do
like
it a couple times.
yeah, like stars, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, just guys who are on the older side.
Like
I mean,
LeBron.
LeBron sat a couple
Yeah.
back to
Yeah.
backs.
Same mindset. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you talked about it. We face the Nets on Thursday. That one should be a pretty good win. Hopefully, we're pretty healthy for that one. We can maybe rest Steph. If Steph plays today, we can maybe give him some rest on Thursday.
Hmm.
Um,
And if he takes a break on Thursday, you know,
that's
the
yeah,
pit,
that's fine too, as long as Jimmy's playing.
yeah, because after Thursday we play on Saturday, like against the Pistons. That
Yep.
game's gonna be pretty good. Pistons been on the uprise, so
Yeah, Pistons been hot, really hot
if
team.
if he takes a break on Thursday, that'll be like, mm, today's Tuesday, right?
Hmm.
That'll be like a four day break for Steph,
Yeah.
which that makes sense if he plays today.
I think after this stretch, so you got Pistons and then Trailblazers. But after the Trailblazers, you get into like a really tough stretch of games. I mean, we'll talk about it next week, but there's some big opponents there that you really want to get some key wins out of.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
These team looks hella good.
yeah. So, is there anything else you want to bring up for today?
You already brought it up, like the injury and stuff.
Hmm.
And I guess we could talk about like what seed and who would we want to go against in the playoff?
I think going against someone in the playoffs right now is like kind of a tough conversation because unless you're the eighth seed, you don't really know who you're going against. The Lakers, Nuggets, Memphis, and Houston, they're separate by 2 games. So like a 2-game losing streak by Denver, for example, right? That puts them maybe in the 4 seed, puts them in the 5 seed, right? Same thing
Yeah.
here with like the 6 through 10 seeds, right? The Warriors are up by 1.5. So if the Warriors, in that tough stretch of games, if they lose, 2 out of 4 or whatever, they
Maybe
could
like
fall
next
all.
week.
Right, they could fall all the way to the 8 seed. So I would say like figuring out who you want to play is kind of tough. But I mean, I think in terms of where we want to be, I think this week is really important. If we can win 3 out of 4 this week, create some separation, at least from the bottom of the play-in, I think we'll be in a good spot. I think if we do lose, I think the Knicks and the Pistons, if we can win one of those games, and then obviously beat the Blazers and the Nets, I'm
Yeah.
happy. But if we lose both, or if we even lose to the Blazers or Nets,
That's
then it concerns me. Dallas, I'm figuring is gonna kind of fall out after this Kyrie, prayers up to Kyrie. You don't want to see anyone go down.
yeah.
He's done for the year. You wonder if AD is gonna ever come back this year because there's no reason to rush him back if they're starting to fall off.
They're
Um,
the 10th
they're the
seed.
10th seed, and
Mm,
they're a full game back versus Clippers, Sacramento, Timberwolves. They're all half game back of the Warriors.
yeah.
Dallas is a 1.5 back. So I mean, I'll take a look right now. Dallas got the Bucks coming up. They got Memphis coming up. They got the Suns coming up. Um, so I mean that's potentially three losses, and like in it,
Clay Thompson's gonna, Clay's gonna pull a Clay, you
yeah,
know.
our old friend Clay. But I mean, if they do lose, those three games, then that puts them in a tough spot to kind of like, even if they get to the 10th seed, right? You have to
Yeah.
win those games without Kyrie and possibly with only AD.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I just don't think Minnesota or Sacramento loses one of those, or the Clippers lose that play-in game. So I just think staying afloat, trying to stay in that 6th seed, maybe making a jump towards that 5 seed. But I think where we are right now, we just got to take care of business right now. And then we'll talk about next week about how this impacts our future.
Yeah.
Any last things before we close out the episode?
Mm, we could do this next week. I was gonna say like talk about like other matchups, like just beside the Warriors maybe, you know?
We'll get into that later, like some other
Yeah.
time, some other day we have time.
Yeah.
But that's it for today. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.